Hey guys, Katie Taylor here with scrappinkaty.com, where I show you how to preserve your family's memories through the art of scrapbooking. Hey guys, it is Katie here, and it is finally time to share my layout that was recently published in the fall issue of the Scrapbooking Cards Today magazine. Now, I can be found toward the back on page 68, that little layout right there. And so while I was making this for submission to the magazine, I recorded the process. It's just I haven't been able to share it. They asked that we wait until mid-October to do that. And so I have the layout here, lots and lots of details that I am going to go over in my process video. So I am going to I'm going to show you how it's made. Now, granted, some of these products aren't available anymore. This was the very popular Crisp Air from Close to My Heart, but I will leave some links down below to some other product suggestions because some of this is, just made with pattern paper and cardstock, and we have our wonderful 4-season autumn collection that this would be so pretty with. So also stick around. I might have some good news to share with you about how you can get a page kit for this. So I really haven't decided yet all the details. So just stick around and watch the entire video. And as always, thanks for stopping by, and let's get to it. I am going to be making this layout using the sketch from Page Maps for scrapbook cards in today's, I guess, fall call for their fall magazine. And I thought that I would do the process on a video, and so you guys can watch it at a later date. So right off the bat, I usually like to explain why I like sketches. And so this particular one, I love that you've got some busy patterns right here and they're separated. I like that you have one photo over here, and then I like that you kind of have this overlay in the background and then just some embellishments, and then of course your small journaling spot right there. So I'm going to be using the Crisp Air collection and the mix-in. Now this is for the catalog July through September, and I love how our mix-ins are meant to coordinate perfectly with the pattern paper that are in the current catalog. So I've got this one. I also have this pattern, and then of course I have the sticker sheet. So I think for my overlays, I'm actually going to use Hexagons. It was inspired by the digital collection for Crisp Air, but instead of using my Cricut, I think I'm going to use a thin cut or a metal die. And what perfect way to just kind of get a sampling of all the patterns than this pattern, B&T. And so you've got, this is on one side, and then of course our other sides are always something different. Love this, hate to hide it, but I just need a few, maybe 8 or 9. So I'm going to go ahead and cut these into squares, and then I can use my die cut machine to go ahead and cut hexagons using those. And I'm going to be using a stitched hexagon. It's no longer available, but the Crisp Air digital collection, I'll leave a link down to it. Remember, it just uses whatever cutting software you like. So you just purchase it, download it to your computer, and then upload it to the software of your choice. So I'm just gonna, these don't really have to be perfect. Just want to make sure that they're cut. So definitely, I might need 2 of those, who knows. And then going to cut these and then get those cut. I'm going to random stamp these leaves right quick, just to kind of add some, I guess maybe interest to them. And I'm using the new background elements stamp set. And I think I'm going to use this one. Instead of a pattern, because we have a lot of patterns going on, I am going to use this one. It's just kind of a little splotch. So I've got my Sundance ink. I don't really need to make sure that it's really inked up. Again, I just want something really subtle, which I think that accomplishes that. And then I'm going to do the same thing on the pine
leaves. I'm not going to do it on the hexagon that's in the Sundance, just because the majority of it is going to be covered up. So I'm going to bring out my pine ink pad. Pine is a new color. It's released in the core catalog, but because this was a July through September paper collection, they went ahead and decided to release just the color early. And this pad, the reason it doesn't have a label on it is I taught at Close to My Heart's annual convention virtually. I taught some of the new products, how to use them, and just gave some ideas to other makers. And so they send you the stuff to use, but our ink pads usually don't have the label on them. But same ink pad, works perfectly fine. I probably will get a new ink pad, just it'll be matchy-matchy with the rest. So I'm going to move these off to the side and then get my wood grain paper, because I definitely want some splatters on it as well around the hexagons. So I'm just going to do a little rough layout of these right quick, just to kind of see what we're working with and where my splotches can go. Okay, so I know that I can use some splotches up here, down here, and then kind of over here. So I am going to use this largest ink splotch, and I think I'm going to do my ink splotches in sapphire. I'm choosing sapphire because my photos are going to be matted with sapphire. So that right there. And maybe right here as well. Try not to move those too much so I won't have to rethink where they go. Okay, maybe a little further out. And then I think right there. And maybe I'm going to have some hexagons right here. So I know that's 4 places. So let's do, gotta be odd.
So one of the things that gave this layout great dimension, not only the stamping that I already did and then the splatters that I'll do here in just a second, is I actually edge distressed or ink distressed each one of these hexagons, as well as the photo mats and the leaves. And that ink just adds a soft little touch to the outside. So I'm going to do the majority of this off camera, but don't forget, if you're new here, like, comment, and subscribe. And you can now leave me super thanks if you are inspired.
So I think I'm ready to get these glued down. Some of them will be glued down just with regular adhesive, and then I'm going to use 3D foam tape on some other ones. So I'm going to speed this process up. And yeah, speed it up and then get through this really, really quick.
As far as adhering these hexagons down, some went down with liquid adhesive, and the others are going to be pop dotted with 3D foam tape. I am bringing out my T-ruler here and there just to make sure they're straight. There's a whole lot of stuff going on in this layout, so straight really isn't my primary focus, but I definitely don't want to just look at the layout and just see a whole bunch of Cricut hexagons. So you can see that toffee one was used or was adhered using 3D foam tape. And then of course this one is liquid adhesive. Now every once in a while it did take my mind a little bit to kind of process which way these hexagons should go. And then of course I did kind of cut some that weren't going to be showing. That little half one with the sapphire that actually will be hidden with my photos. And then there's going to be a sapphire one to the left of the photo well, or that journaling well over on the left. So of course, just cut it in half. No need to just waste that whole little hexagon. So I'm going to play with these just a little bit more. Again, trying to just separate the colors since there are similar patterns, but then also kind of create that visual triangle where I've got the sapphires, you know, on the left and the right and the top and the bottom. Same thing with the sunflower patterns and the pine patterns. So I have another little piece and I'm trying to figure out where this is going to go. I know my 2 photos, even though they're 3x4, they are going to take up a bunch of real estate, but I'm going to lay them out and then quickly see that that half one's not going to work down there. So simple fix, I am just going to use one of the extra hexagons and just freehand with my micro tip scissors and cut me another shape. Now, because this one is freshly cut, I am going to pull out my sapphire ink and ink distress the edges so it'll match all the rest. and then glue that down with liquid adhesive. And I think we are pretty much done with the hexagons. There are one or two that I will add here later. So these little squares basically are just kind of a landing spot for more embellishments. And then that bottom one is actually going to be a landing spot for my journaling. And I love that option. Of course, the 2 3x4 photos, I'm going to add just blank right here, but I will add my photos in the end. So make sure you stick around and see what those photos are. Now, as far as my leaves go, just kind of rough those out where those placements will be. And then I end up doing a little treatment to these leaves. I meant to record it, but I didn't. So all I did was I pulled out my all-purpose mat and squeezed out some clear shimmer brush, and then basically got those leaves wet, crumpled them up. I've done this recently on another layout. I'll leave it linked down below. And then I added also sapphire shimmer brush to those sunflower leaves, or those Sundance leaves. And then here I think is where it just made the layout. I have pulled out the Gilt gloss spray. I've added it to those pine cardstock leaves. And then I'm also going to add dots to my layout base. You guys, if you are not new here, you know I love my gloss sprays for this reason. And in the end, you will see those close-ups and it just makes the layout. I've also taken just the wand of that gloss spray and just kind of painted on that gold around all the leaves. And then we can get ready to kind of adhere these leaves into place. These will be adhered down using liquid adhesive, but not the ends. And that will allow me to kind of flip up the ends and add some dimension. So for my journaling on that bottom square, I am pulling out the pocket cards for the Crisp Bear collection. These are what we call PML, or Picture My Life. And I love them because they are 2 sizes. You get 3x4 and 4x6 in one package. So I've pulled out some that I think are going to work, and I end up going with this little journaling one that says Fall Bucket List. And I'm actually going to write a little bucket list on here. So I am just going to fussy cut this out. I think it's going to look a whole lot better on that little square pattern paper piece instead of just a, 3x4 that's attached down there. Again, using my micro tip scissors, trying to keep pretty close to the edge of that little note. And then again, I do like to add or leave a white edge. It makes it look like a sticker almost. So I am going to glue these down. Again, this is where I said that I'm going to use liquid adhesive, and then just not add adhesive to the very end of the leaves. They just have so much dimension on them that if you just tried to glue them all down to the page, you would kind of lose that in translation. Now, a couple of these leaves, I will add 3D foam tape, as you see here, and then just kind of tuck those down underneath the photo wells. And then just make sure that they're just kind of wonky, like leaves would be if you found them on the ground. I'm going to finish these leaves off and then start adhering my photos. Now these photo wells are 3x4. Because I am using place card holders, I just like to trim my photos down slightly smaller than a 3x4 so I can see that white mat all the way around. The label I'm stamping my date on actually came from the same card from the Crisp Bear Digital Collection. It's a little bit too small for that label. There's a lot of extra space. So I'm using the Background Elements stamp set and just adding X's all around the edge. And then, of course, ink distressing it so it'll be consistent with the rest of the papers on this layout. I am going to add 3D foam tape to the back of that and then just nestle that in between those little leaf clusters. And then I am going to pull out the sticker sheet to see what else I can find to put on there. Again, this is such a beautiful collection. Even though I do end up using a lot of the stickers, I'm really not going to harp on it because it is sold out. One thing that is not sold out is the Crisp Air dots. Now these are enamel dots, but what makes these probably my favorite that Close Smart has done is not only do you get lots of colors, but there are also shapes. There are 3 different sizes of circles, 3 different sizes of hearts, stars, anything you can imagine. And of course, in those gorgeous Crisp Air colors. So I'm just sprinkling those here and there, definitely going to put one by the date. Now this hello, if you remember that digital image, This was the sentiment on the card. So I cut that using mocha cardstock. Because our cardstock is the true color on one side and the light on the other, this is actually just one piece of cardstock, but I used one side for the base or the background and one side for the little thin hello. I am going to pop dot this little sentiment. Again, it will go up by that top leaf cluster. And then I am going to take the little fall circle, put that on a circle 3D foam dot, and then cut that from the carrier sheet. And that way I can lay it everywhere on my layout to the side where it goes. So in essence, the title of this layout is Hello Fall. And then I am going to pull out some little flower clusters as well as those cute little pumpkins. Now some of these will be used, I will be using 3D foam tape, and then others will be glued directly to my layout. I love this little blue and this little other little flower at the bottom left by that hexagon. And then, of course, those little pumpkins that are adhered using 3D foam tape. And then, of course, that little fall was the perfect little center to that sunflower down by the hello. So I'm going to get that attached. And then that hello, I'm actually going to add 3D foam tape. But because the top portion of this title actually rests on my photos, and those photos are already adhered using 3D foam tape, I do not need to add 3D foam tape toward the top. So that's why you kind of see a lot of holes in here. This is just a lot of cutting tiny pieces. Again, my micro tip scissors, the non-stick, make it really easy to cut through that adhesive. I did add some white gel pen to that hello just to kind of make it pop. And then the top just was kind of bland. So I am adding these two little hearts. And then I'll put another little heart by that top sticker by those leaves, just to kind of tie it all in. And that is pretty much it. Here are some still shots showing just all the details of this layout. I have shopping links down below to the things that are still available. And don't forget, there is a close second to this Crispaire collection. It is the Four Seasons Autumn, and that will be linked down below as well. And as always, thank you so much for stopping by and watching. If you liked what you saw, leave a comment and a thumbs up. And if you aren't already a subscriber, hit that subscribe button and sign up for notifications so you won't miss another crafty video. Thanks and have a wonderful week.